Nothing's really a bigger question than the running back room. I don't think we get more answers this week.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. The first episode, a short one, of Ducks versus Them has been released. Some thoughts on what we heard from Dan Lanning in that particular episode. Mike Gundy sounding off. I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people think. I'll explain why. And the segment that I can only do after games, individual standouts, are back. And trivia on a Tuesday. So a jam-packed show, as you might expect. This episode is indeed brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Yes, football season is around the corner for the NFL. Here for college football. Check out the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bets now or get in on the college football action, whatever you want. So, one of the biggest questions that arose out of week one was, what in the world is happening in the running back room? Where is Makhi Hughes? Everybody was wondering. Speculation started to run wild. Was he suspended? Is he hurt? What went on here? Because he wasn't the first running back on the field. Noah Whittington was. Now, think about this. It took Oregon until the first quarter of Game 5 to have an explosive run last year. It happened on the first play of the season this year. Kind of a crazy year-to-year progression there. Just pointing that out. Anyway, so Noah Whittington takes the first snap, and I thought, thought it'd be Makhi Hughes. Okay. Then Jaden Lamar gets the touchdown. I go, oh, okay. Then Jordan Davison gets in the game. Then Jay Harris was in the game. Then De'Aaron Hill was in the game. And we're all looking around going, where in the world is Makhi Hughes? And this was a puzzling question. It seems to be, based on what I've been told, based on what I've heard other people talk about as well, that Makhi Hughes is just not going to be the guy that we expected him to be. This does not mean the running back room is in bad shape. I think it says quite the opposite. Now, Oregon cannot play 6 running backs for the entire season. That's not going to happen. But this week, are we going to get a more condensed rotation? I don't think so. Vegas doesn't think so. Oregon's favored by 28.5 points against Oklahoma State, who's going to be playing, unfortunately, with a backup quarterback. And because Haas Haney got hurt last week in the game. So I don't think that by the end of this game, we will know for sure who the top 2 or 3 guys will be by the time Penn State rolls around. And the staff is in a position at the moment to where maybe they don't even know. Maybe they have an idea of who the top 1 guy is with Noah Whittington, but after that, kind of up in the air. We have seen Dan Lanning staffs use as many as 4 running backs consistently. Maybe that's what we're about to see. I talked about all offseason how I felt like the wide receiver room might not have a 1,000-yard receiver in it because you might just spread the ball around a bunch. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's kind of an exciting aspect of the Oregon offense. We might see it in the running back room. But in 2022, you had 4 running backs who played and all had legitimate contributing roles. You had Bucky Irving, you had Noah Whittington, Jordan James was your short yardage guy, and then Sean Dollars also saw some snaps. He was a third down guy when they would go 21 personnel, 2 backs and 1 tight end. He was usually the player that was in there with Noah Whittington, one of the longer tenured Ducks on the roster, and one of the guys that's been with Dan Lanning all 4 years. So maybe we're about to see that. Or maybe this was just Montana State and they wanted to give everybody a chance to play because they knew the game was going to get out of hand. And then when it did, they were rotating guys in and out. Will Stein has said that Makhi Hughes has been working to pick up the Oregon playbook, and then that has been a progression for him and something that he's kind of had to work on. Maybe he's just behind in that. Maybe Makhi Hughes has a second half surge like Noah Whittington did last year once he gets acclimated to the college game. I think these are all distinct possibilities, and I don't think we can really know until we get to maybe the Oregon State game, or just whenever Oregon has a close game. The first close game that Oregon plays, whenever that is, that's when we'll really find out who's going to be the top guy going forward, or if there's a top guy. Maybe you truly have a two-headed monster. I mean, Penn State last year and this year, it's Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. I don't think there's, a 1 and a 2 there. I think it's 1A, 1B. Maybe Oregon's trying to get to a 3-man rotation like that, keep everybody fresh. Someone sent a question in not long ago to the show and said, hey, maybe that's what they're going to do with the running back room because our running backs haven't looked at their best, or they've been dinged up at the end of the last 2 seasons. Fact check true. Bucky Irving was not great and didn't look like himself in the Pac-12 championship game, and Jordan James went out in the first half of the Rose Bowl. So maybe they want to have a little bit more balance and depth. It certainly looks like they do. I mean, De'Aaron Hill looked awesome. Jordan Davison looked great. Got a couple questions from you guys about the running back room, because this was, I think, the biggest mystery coming out of the game. I was, of course, curious to see how the depth chart would play out, and I'll have more thoughts on that in the second segment on today's show. But when there was no Makhi Hughes for the first running back snap, and he wasn't the second, the third, the fourth, or the fifth, that was when it was like, whoa. So this was not a first half suspension. He's clearly not injured. Like, someone that comes over with this sort of profile, you just would have thought would be Oregon's number 1 running back. That's what I presumed. But in fall camp, apparently that trended in the other direction. Now, something to consider that I don't think we heard on the broadcast, shout out my guy Jake Butt, his brother Naeem Offord is on the team. So maybe him coming to Oregon was more about being closer to his brother than it was being Oregon's number 1 running back. Because if he was at Tulane, he'd be starting for a team that is competing for the college football playoff this year. But this question was sent to me talking about the running backs. And this is an interesting one to think about. Who scores more touchdowns this year, Makhi Hughes or Jordan Davison? That's a difficult question to answer. And Davison was a standout guy. I got another question about him, with regards to whether he could have a Jordan James type role in 2022. I think it's entirely feasible. They have the same sort of profile in that they're physical bruising backs. They are true freshmen. And early on, they show a propensity to pick up those short yardage situations. So I think that's entirely possible. I wouldn't put more than a 6 on Spencer's scale of agreement for that because it is early. And I do think there was a seriously concerted effort by the staff to just play everybody. I don't think it was so much along the lines, it's possible. I don't think it was along the lines of we don't want to tip our hand, we don't want to show these guys. I think they wanted to get everybody's snaps. They wanted them to be as experienced as possible going forward. But Davison or Makhi Hughes, well, Davison's got a 3-touchdown advantage at the moment. And Makhi Hughes, if he has to work his way up the depth chart, look at the guys he has to go up against. Jaden Lamar's been in the system for a couple of years, so too is Jay Harris, who had an explosive play. De'Aaron Hill looks really good as a true freshman. Now, in the goal line area, Hughes would probably be more likely to get a carry than De'Aaron Hill, but I don't know that he'd be more likely to get it than Davison. Maybe he's just still working himself into the fold. Maybe 3 games from now, which would be the Oregon State game, maybe that at that point in time, Makhi Hughes is the number 2 running back. Maybe he becomes the goal line back, or maybe he doesn't develop a huge role at all. Certainly after one game, like I would lean with a 5.5 Spencer scale of agreement confidence level there that Davison winds up having more touchdowns than Hughes at the end of the year. I don't feel incredible about it. It's just he's got a 3-touchdown advantage through one game. There are 11 games to go, and it looks like there are 6 running backs in that room that can legitimately go out there and contribute in one way or another. So, liked what I saw from the running backs a lot. Very, very interested to see how this plays out going forward, because I can't remember the last time the running back room was like this, where maybe you don't have a clear number one, or maybe it is Noah Whittington. He did get the first snap. Perhaps that's telling. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. We have a Ducks versus them. We've got Mike Gundy in a press conference. We've got all sorts of things to get to, of course. First, this episode brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Kind of like how Isaiah World had Dante Moore's blind side covered, and James Ferguson Reynolds didn't have to punt because Oregon didn't punt on Saturday. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next day delivery. You talk about a game changer, that is as good as it gets. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at Rugia. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugia Ready. Rugia Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugia's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugia might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to rugia.com/lockedoncollege. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get 15% off today. That's rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugia website for full safety information. Check them out at rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. Locked On Ducks family out there, listen up. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners, like you, and make your favorite podcasts like this one even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes in advance. Thank you so much for helping us out and helping to make this show better. Anyone want to guess the blue mystery liquid for today's second segment sip? That's not water from Bora Bora. That'd be pretty cool. So, Ducks versus them, episode 2. Loved it. It was short. It was sweet. You know what? Kind of expected that. Wasn't really thinking that Oregon would put out, an 18-minute mini documentary like they did for the Ohio State game last year. But yeah, ante up was kind of a cool phrase from Dan Lanning. And I did think there was something really notable about that particular phrase. So if you haven't checked it out, you can watch it on Twitter or you can check it out on YouTube. It is definitely worth a watch. The social team does a marvelous job. I think they were Emmy nominated last year. They should have won them all. They're just setting the standard for cinematic recaps across the country. So the message that Dan Lanning was shown giving to his players was comparing this game to a hand of Texas Hold'em, poker. And I don't know if you all know how to play. I do. And I'm not good or anything. I'm just saying, I understand the rules. So as he was explaining, I was able to follow along. And I saw why this all made a whole heck of a lot of sense. And I was thinking about what it actually meant. So you start with an ante. That's what ante. It's what everybody puts in to start the hand. So you have something on the line, so you can't just fold for free. And so then as it progressed, Dan Lanning was comparing each card and how that affects your chances to each opportunity that you get to go out there and take the field. Now, I don't think that Lanning and the staff were doing this with the thought in the back of their mind, we have no idea who's actually good enough to go out there and start. But what I came away thinking about after watching it was what I thought in my immediate reaction to Saturday's game against Montana State. It was throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And they have not set some of the depth chart spots. They were giving guys an opportunity to go play who they may feel are not actually starting caliber players at this point in time in their careers. But they have to keep adding. They have to keep stacking moments, and they have to keep winning a sequence in order to continue. You know, if you don't get what you're looking for in the flop, well, then you're not going to make it to the river card in the hand. So when he was talking about that, I thought, well, I bet there are a lot of guys who we saw on the field, which was so much fun for all of us and for the players as well. Like, everybody wins when this happens, and Oregon's in control, and they can play a lot of different guys, and they can see how ready they truly are. The rotations are not going to be this heavy. Now, it was good to see that Oregon seems to have enough talent and depth to where if, you know, God forbid injuries happen, which of course they already did, you know, Emmanuel Prenon goes down, and offensive line did not miss a beat. You know, it was, okay, Kavika Rogers comes in. Dave Yuli's already starting, or then Matthew Bedford gets in, and yeah, they all looked awesome. Absolutely awesome. So I think that for Oregon in game one, there was an element for the staff of like, hey, some of you young guys, show me what you got. And if they show enough, maybe they'll get another opportunity against Oklahoma State. Maybe this week's game will play out like it did a week ago, and Oregon will have the same chance to go play a bunch of guys who maybe aren't going to see the field come Penn State time. And I think there have to be at least a couple of spots where the staff is trying to figure out, okay, how ready is this young guy? Like if Theron Johnson were healthy, he was honorable mention or second team All Big Ten last year at corner. If he were healthy, would Oregon really be starting two freshmen on the outside? I think Naeem Offord was actually one of the most snapped corners on Oregon's roster this year, or the most snapped. Is that what it's going to look like when they go to Happy Valley? Or is it going to be, I'm not saying none of them are going to play, but I think they're, you know, with all the, I've talked about it a lot in the offseason, so this makes a lot of sense to me that they're still trying to figure some things out. Every football coach will tell you week one, you know, hey, are you ready after fall camp? Well, as ready as we can be. That's got to be the most common response amongst college football coaches anywhere in the country. So I think that that's what we saw. And then when I saw what Lanning said in Ducks versus them, I thought, yeah, that kind of makes sense that they're, you know, giving guys a chance and giving them an opportunity to showcase that they're ready to go to the next level, that they're ready to keep playing the hand, as it were. So I thought that was worth noting. This came in, a question from RTS Rock 7464. I don't know if YouTube makes these names or you do, but hey, love questions as always. Am I wrong in thinking Dante needs to get the ball out a bit quicker in Big Ten play, or am I just used to Dylan? Love seeing him run when needed. Great pod. Wasn't expecting one since it's Labor Day. Thank you. No days off. In the season, no days off. There are no days off here at the Locked On Network. That is not how we roll. So, glad you all appreciate it. But, or at least that person did. The rest of you maybe you're like, who cares? Spencer did a show, whatever. I guess I'll listen. No, I'm kidding. No, I didn't feel like there were moments where Dante held the ball too long. I actually thought that, you know, on the play where he ran out of bounds, he wanted to get the ball to his left. I think it was Cooper Perry running in the slot. It was either Perry or Kyler Casper. You know, when I don't remember, those guys in my head look pretty similar because they have similar body types, but it didn't come open on that side as quickly as he wanted to, and then he made what was one of my favorite plays of the day for him, which was, all right, let's just step out of bounds, take 3 points, get a 3-possession lead. Like, I love that moment from Dante Moore. It showed a real heady awareness that he didn't have at UCLA. And it's a small thing, but it's a good place to start. I didn't feel like there was a chronic problem of him holding the ball too long. The throws that he did make down the field were on time. They didn't do it a lot because they didn't have to, and they were able to run the ball really easily. But No, I didn't think there were moments where, the ball wasn't getting out. Like his release is so quick and the ball is just thrown so easily to every single spot on the field. Like he is a special arm talent, man. Like other than Herbert, probably the best arm I've ever seen at the Oregon quarterback position, which probably means it's the best outside of Herbert of all time. Like Joey Harrington had a good enough arm, obviously. I bet if you clocked him, even in Joey's prime, I bet Dante would have the edge there. That's just my guess. But anyway, so to answer your question, RTS Rock 7464, I do think you were wrong to say that Dante needs to get the ball out quicker. Like I think the ball got out whenever it needed to. Like not many notes. Not many notes about Dante Moore's performance. I can only do this next segment. Last year it was 14 times. So here's number 1. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And if you want to bet anything college football related, you can find that as well. You have got Oregon games, you've got every other college football game, point spread, money line, point total. It's all over there. Everything you could possibly want. Conference title odds, national title odds, whatever you need, FanDuel has you covered. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays or Saturdays, because whatever you want, FanDuel's got it. So, are you ready to play? Are you? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And if you want to go to a game this year, you want to use Game Time. College football's back. I'm stoked. You can probably see the joy on my face, hear it in my voice. I'm stoked to have it back. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself sometimes. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. It can be a nightmare. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. That's my favorite part. I cannot stand other ticketing companies that say, oh yeah, this is what you pay, this is what, boom, tack on a fee at the end. That's the worst. Game Time is not about that. Plus they have zone deals where you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. It's that simple. Download Game Time today. It is time, before we get to Tuesday trivia, for one of my favorite segments of the year. Can only do it when there are football games. Don't do it during basketball season. Doesn't work like that. This is a football deal. Individual standouts. Oh, it's just so great to have this segment back into the fold. You know, there are a lot of great things I love about covering this team and the programs all off season. That's great. But nothing hits harder for me and stronger in a great way than individual standouts. These are guys who I feel like need some love that were not necessarily popping into everyone's mind. For some people, sure. But, you know, if you watch the game, you saw Dante Moore make throws. You saw Malik Benson lead the team in receiving. You saw Kenyon Sadiq's highlight touchdown. All that stuff deserves its moment at the sun. But so do these guys. Let me start with the big fellas up front. The right side of Oregon's offensive line. Davey Uli at guard. That was a little bit of a surprise, but not a big one. You know, my pick along the offensive line to have a somewhat unexpected starter was Janoris Wilson over Alex Harkey. I see now why Harkey is the starter, but Davey Uli starting over Matthew Bedford, who's coming off an injury. He's a really experienced guy in college football. It doesn't surprise me at all. We've watched Davey Uli be a good player for this Oregon team. This is his third year in a row where he's seeing regular snaps. Like I'm not shocked by that whatsoever. Davey Uli and Alex Harkey were mauling guys all over the place. Harkey in particular, I saw some snippets going around that he was kind of smack talking dudes, and he did have, I forget which play it was exactly, one moment where he looked like he kind of baited a Montana State player who wasn't looking at him into running a bit just so he could clothesline him on the ground. And then he just stood down and looked at him. Iuli and Harkey, the whole offensive line played great. Poncho, any rotations they made at the left guard position, Isaiah World, they all did really well. But if you go watch some of Oregon's big play, like the first play of the game, Iuli and Harkey just wash everything out. Noah sees the cutback lane, and he looks fully healthy, and we know how good he is when he's at full strength. So those two guys in particular were phenomenal. Speaking of blocking, I would like to highlight Dante Moore again. Talked about him on yesterday's show, but also Jamari Johnson. And I'll start with Dante, who on that first play from scrimmage just clears his guy out of the way. He had, I think, from Pro Football Focus, a 90 run blocking grade out at wide receiver. He was hyped. He's into it. I think we're going to love this guy. What's not to love so far? Oregon wasn't taking downfield shots in this game. His first career touch goes for a first down on the end around, and he looks electric. He hurdled a guy, and then he was just clearing the way. He had the block and blocked the wrong guy, as Dan Lanning told us, on Gary Bryant's touchdown. He had a block to spring Noah Whittington free. He had a block on Jaden Lamar's touchdown run. Guy is out there playing. He is the number one receiver in the class, 5-star, all this hype and he's willing to get down and do the dirty work. Heck yeah, man. I love it. Jamari Johnson as well. I don't think he had a catch in this game, but he looks healthy, which is big because transferring over from Louisville, he's coming off an injury. He looks like the guy who we thought we were getting, which is someone that, maybe doesn't have a big role in the passing game. We'll see. I think he's capable, but he's out there primarily to be a blocker. He looks healthy. He looked really good. He had some awesome blocks in this game that I saw. Jeremiah McLaughlin as well. I was actually curious when it was happening during the game. He blocked 2 punts. I can't remember an Oregon player ever doing that. You guys can do your sleuthing and let me know if there's been an instance, but I can't ever remember in my life Oregon blocking 2 punts in a game, let alone it being the same guy. Shout out to Joe Lorig, the special teams coach. But again, McClellan's a receiver. He had 1 catch in this game, and we know what his potential is out there. Going out and getting it done on special teams, I'm so here for it, man. So incredibly here for it. In the secondary, Naeem Offord, I thought, looked good. Highest rated defensive back recruit in Oregon history. His pass interference, I will say it again, that was not PI. That was a horrible call from the officiating crew. First game of the year, everybody's working the kinks out. And the Montana State receiver sold it a bit. But yeah, I thought he had a nice game. Because aside from the PI, which wasn't actually a flag, we didn't hear from him. You know why? Because he was covering the guys most of the time. And speaking of which, here's a guy who flew under the radar as well in the secondary. Sione Laulea. Did you see the number 3 out there? If you were wondering who that was, that's a number change for Sione, who has been wearing number 13 in his career. He was seeing the field a good amount. And he's one of those guys, along with any number of other players in the secondary, quite frankly, whether it's Aaron Flowers or, Finney and Ife Obadegwu when Theron Johnson comes back, or Jaden Kennedy, Kingston Lopa, Aaron Flowers. I already said Aaron Flowers. But I don't think you're going to see that many guys rotate in. It is a good sign that if you need to, or if a guy gets dinged up, there are a lot of options available. But Sione had some nice moments. And he's, when he first got to Oregon, he was really skinny. He was hitting dudes. He had a couple of really nice hits. Before Montana State converted a 4th and 1, pretty sure it was the one they converted, they picked up 9 yards. Dylan Thieneman got held. Horrific missed call by the officiating crew. But the receiver was a yard short because Sione flew over and popped him. And kept him a yard short of the line to gain when it looked like he was going to get a first down on 3rd and 10. So I thought Sione did some nice things. But I want to hear your individual standouts as well that maybe go beyond the obvious, or maybe the obvious ones. Let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter. So this will be a once weekly thing. Tuesday trivia, because this has been so wildly popular. Reminder to send questions. It's got to be via direct message or become a Locked On Ducks insider. Not going to do it in the comments because I can lose those. I can lose track of those too easily, and I don't want to do that. So, a few here. A few. I said I was going to be selective. I'm gonna try to go a little rapid fire here. One of them I have no chance at. Like, I applaud the creativity, but I have no chance. So I'll start with that one. Charles, which is my middle name and my dad's name. Fun fact. Do you care? No, but now you know. Trivia questions. Which team broke Mel Renfro's rib at Hayward Field, and who won the game? I'll go with Oregon won the game. Which team? I wasn't even alive back then, so it's got to be a random one, though. I'll go with Cal. Why? I don't know. Calvin, name an Oregon football player who at any time set any record for each position on offense. O-line can just be one player. Okay. Career rushing yards, Royce Freeman at running back. Single season record for tight end receiving yards. Let me come back to that. Single season receiving yardage record for a wide receiver, Troy Franklin, 2023. Most passing yards in a season, I'm going with... It's either Bo or Marcus. I think it's Bo. I'm going to go with Bo. Bo Nix on that one. What record do you even have on an offensive line? Any record. Got to be like most starts. Most starts along the offensive line for Oregon. I'm going to say Max Unger. And for tight end, most receiving yards in a single season, I will go with... it's got to be like Ed Dixon, T. Ferg, David Paulson maybe. I'll go with Ed Dixon. I will go with Ed Dixon. Last one from Balin. We know and love that Autzen is known for its crazy noise levels, especially during big games. The loudest game I've personally experienced was 2018 against Washington. I was in London watching that game at dark 30 in the morning. I should have gotten a noise complaint from whoever was in the other room. It saw a peak of 125 decibels. So the question is, when was the unofficial loudest game in stadium history? Who was the opponent? And what was the decibel reading? Bonus question. One of our current Big Ten brethren took a trip here some years ago and accused us of piping in crowd noise. What team was that? Took a trip here some years ago. What Big Ten teams? That's got to be Michigan State, 2014. 2017, I don't think there was a Big Ten team. 18, no. 19, no. 21, Ohio State didn't come here in 2021. We went there. Yeah, I'll go Michigan State 2014 for that. When was the unofficial loudest game? Who was the opponent? What was the decibel reading? Well, if Washington was around 125, I'll say the peak was around 130. Who was the opponent? And what was the year? You know what? It was a sellout crowd. It was the biggest crowd in Oregon in Autzen history. I'll go Ohio State 2024 with a peak of 130 decibels. So those are my Tuesday trivia questions. I was going to be more picky with those, but there were three, and I was like, I don't know. I have absolutely no chance at one of them. But keep the questions coming. Spencer Scale of Agreement as well. Tomorrow we'll have a crossover with Cody Stovall of Locked On Oklahoma State. Get the latest from Pokes Country. So we'll see you then. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And go Ducks.